Alright, YouTube, it's time for another video. I think I'm going to title this one, Your Social Media Addiction Ruined the Economy. And I actually think that is all I need to say. I'll see you later. No, the thing that's been on my mind so much lately is just how much of my life has been for naught because of the amount of people that spend all day terminally online, not wanting to do things, not starting their day at a reasonable hour, stuff like that. And how that does eventually play a factor in the economy or society at large. The amount of people I know who wake up to their smartphone alarm clock, browse social media in bed, now they're running late for school or work, then they eat an unhealthy breakfast like a donut instead of maybe something healthier like, eggs and sausage link or bacon strip or whatever. Then they, go to school or work, maybe conduct their tasks there, but business is drying up. Every company I read about, they're always talking about how, things, people aren't shopping enough, or we need to get more business here. And, it could be fear mongering on the company itself just to make people more work oriented. But I mean, I also think there's some truth to just like sales in general of pretty much everything just seem low. And I think it's because people spend all day on the internet, doing absolutely nothing of real substance. YouTube video, watching YouTube video after YouTube video, addicted to whatever's coming up next on their recommendations of videos list and stuff like that. I always get frustrated when people think that, sometimes I have conversations with my mom or dad or a couple of friends I still have contacts with, and they all think I'm just, being sensationalist, complaining about the internet, and then they'll be saying it to me while on their phone reading like some sort of article. If it's my parents, it'll be some like, old school media, MSNBC or CNN type website. If it's younger people, it will be like some Twitch streamer. And I'm just like, man, has anyone ever thought about, how different our society would be if this stuff didn't exist? I mean, think about how much more, local, I get pissed off when conservatives blame it on like globalist, elitist agendas and hidden societies or whatever. And because, I do think there's wealthy elites who obviously influence our, country and world, but I don't think it's like a grand conspiracy like that. I think it's more just really people are spending more time connected to the world. And I don't mean like the outside world in a good way. I mean to this global hub, if you will, that's called Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. And maybe you can include Twitch, stuff like that. Think about all those Twitch streamers and YouTubers that have, tens of thousands of dollars a month in ad revenue or Patreon or subscriber accounts or whatever. Making, what would they have done? Think about how different their lives would have been if this culture and this society didn't exist. They'd be making 20 bucks an hour, $15 an hour, $12 an hour. Maybe they went to college and they got a salaried job. But I just think that, if you can't understand the economy at this point, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that what most humans spend doing, the time they spend doing, is where you have to invest and where you have to focus on. And all of these websites and streams and culture like this, it's only going to get bigger, I think. More and more people are terminally online. Now, you do have to also raise the question about how many younger people exist nowadays, and it seems like the Zoomers, the oldest Zoomers are 25, 24, 26. The youngest Zoomers are 5, 6, maybe 7. Yeah, I'd say if a generation is listed as 18 years, because that's like your K through 12, right? 18 years roughly, and then of course the few years of being a baby where you're not in school at all. If a generation is 18 years, I think the Zoomer generation is going to go down as 1998 to 2016, just due to the election controversy and loudness of it. Although some people might say Zoomers will go down in history as like 2001 to 2019, or you'll extend it a year and say 2020, due to COVID, which maybe COVID is a better delimiter because that was the most wild time in human history, maybe ever. I would say COVID has a chance to be that 2-ish years, especially of March 2020 to March of 2022. I think can go down maybe in history as the most odd 2 years in maybe all of organized civilization. It's that crazy, yeah. And but anyway, the oldest Zoomers are 26, and that's old enough to be technically a college graduate. Most people are 18 to 22, I guess, is college, but I would say most people are being fifth year seniors, and you'd say till 23. But yeah, I think college grads are, nowadays there's a good chunk of Zoomers that are post college, or at least real damn close to finishing up. And these are people who don't have, if they were alive before 9/11, they were a baby. So as someone who was about 10 when 9/11 happened, I didn't understand the severity of it, but I definitely remember watching it on TV in school, and then the teachers were told by the principal to turn off the TVs and stuff. But I do think that the Zoomers, there's not a lot of them, right? It's their parents were Gen X, and Gen X is a smaller generation because their parents were the silent generation. And again, it's not 100% spot on, but most of the time your parents are going to be not the exact generation before you, but the one more, right? It skips a generation. So I'm a millennial, pretty smack dab in the middle of it, and my parents are boomers. My parents are, actually very old boomers. They were born in the late 40s, which is, they had me, and, I was the youngest of my three, my brother and my sister, and then me. So my brother and my sister were born in the 80s, which makes a little more sense for my parents to be a late 40s, early 50s birth. But anyway, the millennials were a larger generation because boomers were our parents, and Gen Alpha or in theory, the millennials are the parents of Gen Alpha. Now, the millennials are not growing up very quickly, myself included, and there's a multitude of reasons why, but this one's mostly the economic conversation, but I mean, there's obviously other factors that feed into the economic conversation, but we can talk about those on another time. But due to this terminally online lives, I think there's a large chunk of people who are stuck in the late aughts to early 2010s, and I do think that the only people who have moved on, well, I take that back, not the only people. There's two divergences. That era, that late aughts to early 2010s lifestyle came to an end some time ago, maybe about 4 years ago or so, 5 years ago. But it does seem like the next step in evolution of that lifestyle, is only just more social media and bitterness rather than some level of happiness. I remember when, YouTube first started getting big around 2007, when it was purchased by Google in I want to say 2006, and then 2007 YouTube was starting to change. a lot. Um, you know, people, I think, kind of don't realize, that first 5 or 7 years of YouTube, it was actually somewhat kind and peaceful. I mean, yeah, there'd be videos that got disliked and stuff, but for the most part, it was relatively, people were searching out stuff they enjoyed and laughing with it, or they were watching like Guitar Hero perfect runs of that Dragon Force song that people thought was cool. YouTube was a lot different back then. It was not corporatized. I mean, even if it was owned by Google, the corporatization aspects weren't really until a few years later. But it was starting, I suppose, even as far back as 08, 07. But I remember like when the top 10 most viewed videos, like one of them was like, I think it was these two like Israeli girls singing along to the Pixies, if I recall. I think they said they were from Israel. I don't remember. That's a hot topic nowadays, obviously, because of the Israel-Palestine conflict. But, who cares? Well, I care about that, I guess, but that's not the topic. But yeah, I think that, that early days of YouTube, it was optimistic and kind of happy and goofy. And then sometime in the mid-2010s was when a lot of this stuff started to change. I think people will probably bring up Gamergate, and I think that that's a fair point of view. And I'm not sure what the hell this guy's doing. Okay, he's turning around. But I think that that caused a lot of just bitterness that's continued on. And so that era, that late zeros to early 2010s era ended sometime in that mid 2010s, and the next era is even worse. This newer era, this past 7 years of social media or so, has only been worse. It's more anger, it's more bitterness, it's more hostility. It's people not getting along. It's people not really wanting to listen to anybody else. And I don't just, as a more left-wing person, I don't just blame the right for this. I think there's a lot of left-wing people who are part of the problem. Man, I hate when cars fucking come into the shot. I don't know why. But whatever. This guy's like driving weird. But I think that a lot of people need to understand that, millennials are an older, we're starting to, get into our 30s. Almost everyone is. So we should be of the age where we're, married and having kids, and a lot of people aren't doing that. And I wonder if people are really, is the Gen Alpha gonna even, how existing is it gonna be? But the Zoomers now, right now, are kind of the focal point, because, and their time in the spotlight will be shorter lived than the millennials, because they're a smaller generation of people. But this is their spotlight. This is, I think, peak Zoomer, which, I'm definitely not of Zoomer age, but I kind of see myself a little bit in that generation, just because I'm kind of socially behind in a lot of ways. But and obviously they are too, because they're younger. Mine is just, something's wrong with me. I don't know. But I think that this is peak Zoomer and Zoomer culture, and I think a lot of them are, also very stunted, but they're spending a lot of time online, and that's where all the money's flowing, because that's where all the time is flowing. And so I do think that people need to probably pay more attention to how much the internet and its subcultures are affecting the world economy, for that matter. I mean, if the GameStop stuff didn't make you pay attention to what the internet can do, I don't know what will. And I think that people are spending too much time online. But to talk about it a little bit more, I think that a lot of people need to understand that, um, you know, the internet is basically every aspect of our lives now. You have to have connectivity to almost everything to interact with any technology you buy. And it's really, really odd to me that people are spending, this much time caring about internet culture. We need to have a disconnect from it. I don't think everything, maybe your phone and computer should be the only things that connect to the internet. That's, I think, a healthy economy and healthy society. But I know a lot of people who, amongst the millennials, which is a generation I'm a part of, I have noticed a large chunk of people that it seems like whenever they first really got addicted to, back for millennials, it was like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. For Gen Z, it was more like Instagram. That Instagram is like the link between between millennials and Gen Z, if you ask me. And I guess YouTube as well, but TikTok kind of replaced Facebook in the Gen Z crowd. But I do think that if the amount of millennials that when they first kind of really embraced these websites, they're almost stuck in that particular time of their life. And I think that that's causing a massive problem with the economy at this point, because now we're having so many people who are disjointed from where they should be versus where they actually are. And I don't really blame any economic policies of any political party in this regard. I do blame the tech companies and their addiction-based model for their platforms. Algorithms, recommended videos, stuff like that. I think that stuff is extremely unhealthy and dangerous, and it's caused people to not start their actual day and get out of bed and put on some clothes and, look for a job or stuff like that. Now, I know some people will say that, why work these dead-end jobs that don't have any room for advancement and pay, $12 an hour when some lunch meat is now $10 for half a pound of, whatever, roast beef or chicken breast at a grocery store. And I do see that perspective. However, I don't know if the solution is to do nothing at all, because that, I think, will socially stagnate you to a point of no return. I do think it is better off now. I don't know. It's tough for me to say, because you are kind of slaving away to a company that just doesn't really give much of a fuck about you. But I don't know. I do think it's better to at least go out and work almost for a social experience. And furthermore, I do think it's also good to at least go out to stores and window shop or buy something small just to fuel the economy and also interact with people. But yeah, your social media addiction is the number one threat to, I would argue, almost the entire world and the entire safety of the world. I've detached a lot from social media, especially, I actually spent the last week not really doing much on the internet. I think really other than for work, because I do some level of programming for my job, and obviously you'll have to connect to the internet, or at least the local. It is the internet effectively, but and then maybe I'll put like some music playing while I'm working, some light, easy listening music. And I understand those are good conveniences that the internet has caused. However, when I went home from work this past week and a half now, when I came home, I have not used the internet really since any days. Maybe basically I've used it maybe 20 minutes before bed just to, read something or check the scores of, March Madness games that have been happening yesterday and today. And honestly, I do think it's caused me to at least open my eyes back up to the rest of the world and helped me a little bit. It hasn't led to many social interactions with people or meeting new people or anything, but I do think it's helped me mentally and made me feel a little bit more growth as a person. I know that sounds crazy to say just for turning off the internet, but I think it's something people need to do more of. And I think your personal hyper obsession with whatever's trending on Twitter or X, or getting angry over, whatever some new movie is too woke or not woke enough, I think all those things are ruining your life. And it's mostly being fueled by the internet and how most of these algorithms and websites, or the websites that these algorithms run on fueling that mind state in your brain. And it's causing you to slow socially, mentally, physically, economically, atrophy and decay. And that's now playing a massive role in the actual economy, because all the economy is just made up of people. That's all it is, people. I'll end this video on one particular moment in The Office. One of my favorite episodes, if not the best episode of the show, is there's a season, I think it's season 3 or 4, and it's called Business School. And basically there's 3 main plots. There's the kind of the jokey C plot where there's like a bat that flies in, that's found in the office, and they have to get this bat outside of the office, and Jim pretends to be bitten and turns into a vampire, and Dwight, falls for the prank or whatever. And then there's also Pam, who is starting her art exhibit at the art gallery in Scranton, and nobody really takes her art seriously, or they don't show up for the art exhibit at all. And so Pam doesn't feel like she's being respected in the office. And then there's Michael, and Michael kind of links to the A plot and the B plot, where Michael goes to Ryan's business school to lecture, and he finds out that Ryan has been saying that Dunder Mifflin's going to go out of business soon, and Michael's really hurt by that. And at the end of the episode, while he's driving home, he's lecturing to he's lecturing to Ryan about how, it's what people is what makes up, people is what matters. And he says, people will never go out of business. And Michael's the only one who shows up at Pam's art exhibit and takes her art seriously and makes her feel excited about her art. And it shows that, Michael Scott is one of my favorite fictional characters, at least of the past 20 years, because he's so mentally, brain dead in a lot of ways. But they give him a lot of good growth, where there's, these certain episodes that Michael does show, he's not as stupid as everyone makes him out to be. He's clearly not. He's very socially dysfunctional in a lot of ways, but there's also moments where he's, the smartest guy in the room. And I love those episodes because there's not a lot of them, so when they do happen, it makes you kind of you're excited that Michael Scott's getting this little victory, because you empathize a lot with his character. I think he's a really good fictional character. But people is what makes up the economy. And if people are spending all day addicted to social media, we're reaping what we sow. Just my thoughts, and I'm out.